It is time for another political breakfast. As the start of the new legislative session looms, the issue of public safety is sure to be a top priority. That's according to Republican strategist Brian Robinson and Democratic strategist Tharon Johnson. Just last week, MARTA bus driver Leroy Ramos was shot and killed outside the Decatur station, allegedly over a fare dispute. 3 juveniles were swiftly arrested. Tharon and Brian weigh in on safety and gun violence and other issues that should get tossed around under the Gold Dome. We start today with Tharon.
Well, I want to offer my condolences again. When we're starting off the year 2025, we're offering a lot of condolences, but the MARTA bus driver's name is Leroy Ramos. Unfortunately, Lisa, he lost his life over a dispute about a $2.50 bus fare. Now, as we tape this podcast, MARTA has released a statement that's, sort of, I wouldn't say it's generic, but, while we have an ongoing investigation, they have acknowledged that there's been an uptick in violence toward transit operators, not just in Atlanta, but statewide. And in full disclosure, I do work for MARTA, but I think that at a time when we need more MARTA bus drivers to get us to and from our destinations and making sure that we talk about traffic, MARTA is really looking at ways to try to improve transit throughout the region. We want to make sure that our MARTA bus drivers feel safe. We have a gun problem in this state. I've said it for the last few years. Too many people have access to guns. Too many bad people have access to guns. And this was just an unfortunate murder that could have been avoided.
I think on public safety issues, and we may come to find out that those kids were involved in some sort of street gang, which is driving a lot of the violent crime that we face in Georgia communities today. The Attorney General says that there are organized street gangs in every county in the state, and that's why one of the things he's done is create a gang task force, because those gangs don't operate inside of one jurisdiction. They're multi-jurisdictional. One thing that's of great concern to me that I think the legislature is going to need to take a look at, and this kind of gets to the, every state is a border state issue. South American gangs have now come into Georgia in such heavy numbers that they're highly organized, highly effective, and highly lethal. And we see them striking in organized retail crime, where they will travel up and down interstate corridors and hit different retail establishments and then sell those items online. That is something that's a huge threat to public safety, but also to our businesses. It's going to make it really difficult for retailers to continue providing services to Georgians when they're being robbed blind by sophisticated criminal networks. So that's going to be something that's only getting worse, but that's got to be a priority, and I think it is going to be a priority in Washington and in Atlanta this coming year.
You both had some really great points there, and if you had a wish list, if both of you had a wish list for this legislative session, take a moment and think about it, and just tell me, what would your wish list be?
Sports betting,
yeah.
Medicaid expansion, tough laws that supports local, state, and national organizations to do something around gun violence. And then the last thing is that I want a solution long-term that's going to fix our prison system. That would be my 4 quick wish lists. The first thing we got to do is that we got to make sure our women and men and law enforcement feel appreciated. We got to make sure that they're paid adequately. But more importantly, we got to also make sure that they feel that the political will is there to make sure that not everybody is punished when one bad actor commits a crime. Now, I would be remiss, Lisa, you know where I am on this. I mean, we have seen recent videos of police brutality. We're seeing more and more innocent people being attacked while apprehended by police officers, right? So we need to make sure they're paid more, they're properly trained, but at the same time, we need to work with these police chiefs to weed out these bad actors. But we got to build up that public support for our women and men in law enforcement to make sure that we understand that they have tough jobs. I think the conversation around public safety is going to be a big one at the Capitol, and I think you'll see a lot of sheriffs weigh in about if President-elect Trump decides to deport violent or undocumented, people who are here in this country who have a rap sheet, then that's going to put a lot of resources and demands on our local sheriffs and our local jurisdictions. So I hope that the funding will be there for them to hire more people to carry out that act.
Boy, prison system is certainly going to be something that they've got to take a look at. We've got a disaster on our hands there. My wish list is lawsuit, abuse reform, tort reform, whatever you want to call it. But Georgia is an outlier as far as these jackpot juries go. It is making us a less hospitable place for businesses to stay or to relocate to. It's making insurance too high, and it's making insurance hard to get for a lot of mom and pop smaller businesses because it's unaffordable and there's only so much price they can pass on to the consumer. So that would be number one for me. Also would love to see some sports betting. 40 other states have done it. So we're an outlier here. So it's having it brought in-house would probably bring in $15 to $16 million a month that would go toward pre-K or some other educational program.
Sounds like a no-brainer. Sounds like a no-brainer, right?
You're doing it adds protections, adds revenue, and it brings it out of the darkness, which is where it is now in this illegal area where people operate. But if you're in North Georgia, you can you can go across the line to Tennessee, and all of a sudden you're on a different cell phone tower, and you can do it there. So, and we're seeing the success that they're having in Tennessee. It's made a big difference in revenue.
North Carolina.
And in North Carolina, yes. Lastly, I would say one thing that I want to see long-term is some sort of funding mechanism for transportation. We're growing so fast that, and because so much of our retail goods are now delivered to our homes, the supply chain, all of that is going to require a lot of infrastructure investment over the next 50 years. And we've got to be good stewards of tomorrow and start making those investments in roads, bridges, ports, airports, etc.
That was Republican strategist Brian Robinson and Democratic strategist Tharon Johnson talking to me about their Gold Dome wish list. The full podcast is up now. You can find it at wabe.org or wherever you get your free apps. Amplifying Atlanta, this is listener-funded WABE.